Redout 2, a spiritual successor to the likes of F-Zero or Wipeout, and it is a wholly underappreciated game. Mainly because the masses of caffeine-addicted lunatics are too busy building entire cities faster than a nuclear explosion can destroy the last remnants of reasonable thinking on this planet. Or perhaps they're too attached to the toxic adrenaline of modern virtual games of combat sport. Whatever the true case may be, more sensible people, unlike me, I'm not really that sensible, but are looking back to the simple times of interactive video experiences and know better than to try and change with the times. As the times are always changing themselves, trends will inevitably outpace people's need to settle, and thus they become less than human, only existing in their strange, perverted form of reality that simply won't let them go. You buy the ticket, you take the ride, and if it gets a little heavier than what you had in mind, you may already be too far gone for the good people of this world to bring you back from the edge. And for those of you who are lost, I can only hope that you find something worth remembering on your path to oblivion. Well, that was a bit heavy to start. This is just a bit of creative writing that I wanted to, try out for funsies. Anyway, let's get to the actual game, right? Redout 2 gives me the same feeling as what I assume other people seek in extreme sports like base jumping and crocodile wrestling. Of course, since this is all virtual, there isn't quite as much risk involved, though I suppose my PC could explode in a freak accident. That's really not on the cards. In Redout, you play as a new initiate driver to the Redout Racing League, and it's up to you to become a shill for as many teams as possible and thoroughly destroy your competition. But only emotionally, not literally, since unlike its predecessor, the original Redout, there are no direct ways of messing with your opponents. Mario Kart, this is not. It is strictly down to your skill and style that you will achieve victory. Let's start plainly with just the basic control scheme. It'll feel very familiar to you if you've played any racing game that's come out within the past 15 years. Right trigger goes forward, left trigger goes backwards, the left analog stick will move you left and right, and there are two go faster buttons. You have your Hyper Boost, which is a rechargeable boost that overheats your ship less, accelerates more gradually, but has a limited duration and a cooldown associated with it. Normal boosting is pretty much the complete opposite. It accelerates sharply, there's instant acceleration, there's no upper duration, technically, and it overheats your ship much quicker than the Hyper Boost. Speaking of overheating, boosting too much and you'll start to overheat. Overheat and your health bar starts draining, meaning that your health essentially becomes a second boost meter that you can play with. Lose all of your health at once, and, well, you'll become a local landmark that chronicles the danger of tunnel vision. If you've ever played the Star Wars podracing games, either on the N64 or the original PC version, or Racer Revenge on the PlayStation 2, this will all be sounding very familiar. There's also a rewind mechanic, so if you want to recover from a fit of bad vibrations or to practice certain sections on the track without having to loop all the way back around and do another entire lap, it just makes it more convenient. But where things get more interesting relates back to the tracks themselves. They are not two-dimensional planes like most racing games, and the game will not autocorrect your ship's attitude for you. Along with your steering, simply pointing the nose of the ship left and right, you also need to worry about pitching your nose up and down to follow the track, or else you'll start dragging your nose across the tarmac, or worse, completely detach from the track and go flying off into the distance. And while it's not quote-unquote required to do well or to finish any races, you can also strafe left and right to help with turns or to make gentle curves passable without turning your ship at all. You can also roll your ship left and right, but that's only if you're off the track, so it's not a worry all the time, just if you're airborne. All of these controls have a level of automation and assists to make it easier to manage, but if you are absolutely insane, this game does give you the option to completely disable all safety and assist mechanisms. In fact, you get an achievement for finishing a race with all of them disabled. So, feel free to customize to your heart's content. I certainly will not be stopping you. And now, for the ships. There are a few teams, specifically 12 teams, that you'll be unlocking throughout your career mode along with cosmetics for each of their ships. And some ships have cosmetics that belong to other teams, as well as you'll be able to unlock color schemes and camouflage schemes for all the ships too, and those can be used on any ship once you unlock them. We're going to go over the teams in the order that you unlock them in the career mode, so without further ado, let's start off with the first team you'll have access to. The European Space Agency, the ESA, the almighty all-rounders. Not bad at anything, but also not excelling in anything either. Average speed, average handling, average health, but excellent reliability to face anything the League will throw at you. Lunare Scuderia. Light, quick, and responsive, Lunare are the sports car analogs of the Redout universe. Exceptionally responsive, quick to accelerate, they are lacking in durability and can struggle to grip the track, but will always come out on top in raw performance. Also, apparently their founders were responsible for genocides that spanned the solar system and almost resulted in the complete extermination of the human race, so yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Acera. Founded from the remnants of Japan and its technology sectors, they're known for their ship's neck-breaking boost and acceleration, but they do have to sacrifice other stats to make that happen. They look almost alien in design, and are the gambler's choice, as your reliance on boost means the constant threat of overheating, but with enough skill, you'll be able to ride that knife edge all the way to the finish line. Königsworth. Slow but stable, with a hull built like no other. It may not be the fastest, in fact it's definitely the slowest, but with plenty of boost power and good handling, there's always a chance of victory. Unfortunately, this ship does suffer from having the lowest top speed in the game, and while you do have a good amount of boosting power, it's nowhere near as much as Acera, and Acera's ships are also lighter, and their top speed is better, and while they don't have as much durability as you, meaning you technically have the longest boost bar in the game, because, you know, your health can act as boost, you just don't have the power behind it. Sure, you can boost for longer, but you'll cover less distance with that extra boost. Königsworth, honestly, is just a dead team. You won't really have much success using them if you want to go for, you know, best times, or even survival, as other ships are just more maneuverable. So really, there's just no reason to use Königsworth. And by anyway, there's a team you'll unlock later that's just Königsworth, but better, which we'll get onto. So let's move on to the next team for now. The Wallace Racing Genesis. Genesis does what Nintendo. A race team entirely funded by thirsty crowds of race car fans on Kickstarter. No, I'm not making that up. I mean, I might be adding a bit of dramatic flourish to it, but that's literally what this is. It's a crowd-funded racing team. They are entirely focused on cornering and grip. The tightest turning circle in the game by far, and handling that will never let go of the track. No matter how much you try and drift, this thing will stay glued to the track. It does pay for it with a lacking power plant, meaning its boost power and its top speed aren't as good as other ships. However, it does make up for this by, again, the turning, and it retains more speed through turns. You have to brake less as you're turning. So your average speed will probably be higher than most other ships, but you just have to keep that in mind that you will not win a drag race against most other teams, especially not this next team. Conqueror, the all-American muscle car. Raw power, combined with excellent strafing, makes this a strange beast to handle, and it is completely hopeless at steering and wickedly unstable. But if you can manage to get it under control, and there is nothing that will stand in front of you and live to tell the tale. It is just a V8 muscle car. I mean, look at it. It might actually be, I think it's basically just a V. Just imagine a big block muscle car, and that is what this is. No turning, no style, all power. It's just perfect. Behemoth. Or as it's cutely abbreviated in-game, Behemoth. Oh, it's so cute. They're supposed to act as a lateral upgrade, like a side grade to the older Königsworth ships, and I say older because Königsworth has been around since the original Redout game. Behemoth ships are faster, they have better throttle response and boost, and are even more durable than Königsworth ships. The only problem is that this is a trade-off because Behemoth ships are absolutely hopeless in anything other than a straight line, more than Conqueror ships, and they are also even more unstable. They are the most unstable ships in the game and will drift all over the place if you do not slow down enough. You can use this to your advantage by drifting around corners, and Behemoth does have a lot of boost power, and so I would say it is overall just a better ship than Königsworth. Like, I'm sorry, Königsworth, y'all are cool, but just use Behemoth ships. Just don't even bother with Königsworth. It's worth the wait to use Behemoth ships, especially on some of the tracks that are really dangerous to your health and that you will overheat on really quickly. Just use Behemoth over Königsworth. I'm sorry again, Königsworth. You're cool, but just sit over there. Let's move on to the new team before I get more sad. Helix. Born in the depths of the Marianas Trench, it has a really nasty tendency to overheat really quickly when it's out of water, which thankfully the Marianas Trench is completely underwater, but that's due to its above average engine and boost power. Combined with predictable handling and reasonable durability, like actually it's pretty good, this ship is another great all-rounder that should not be overlooked. Compared to ESA, it trades more boost and speed for less durability and stability, while still retaining a good amount of strafing and steering. It's a good choice, especially on the Marianas Trench level, where the overheating problem is pretty much solved by you constantly being in the water, and that cools you down, as we'll talk about in the tracks later on. But good ship, do not overlook it. Buran. The pure... Buran. The pure embodiment of Soviet-era engineering. If it works, we'll use it. Buran ships are horrible to control, lacking in all aspects of user-friendly characteristics. No real steering, no real strafing, no real grip, nothing. But it more than makes up for that, with its large and durable hull housing equally large and powerful engines, resulting in little downtime from anything other than max speed. I mean, its acceleration is top-notch. It's a difficult ship to tame, but worth it for adventurous racers. And it is one of my favorites just because the weird handling does mean you can corner a little bit better. It's good, you should give it a try. Sula. It's a pod racer from the Phantom Menace. In-universe, Sula made massive engines for cargo hauling ships. Taking those same engines' design and making everything around them as light and easily breakable as possible led to this ship design. Unmatched raw top speed and acceleration, it breaks apart if you so much as look at it the wrong way, and it could use some more grip, but the sheer top speed does make it worthwhile. It does have a strange tendency to corner at really weird speeds, and if you do hit a wall, like right square on the side of the engine, it has a tendency to explode, and you can't boost for very long, but when you do boost, it kicks in real hard. A tricky ship to use, because if you overheat, then you'll be stuck without boost for a long time as it tries to cool down, and you overheat really quickly anyway. But it is a very consistently quick ship, not relying on boost as much as other teams, so very good. Akal Tech. A reference to the Akal Teke, a real-life horse that is still on Earth and that you should definitely go and look up and figure out why Turkmenistan's leader is so obsessed with them, but anyway, we'll just get on with this. In universe, Akal Tech ships are made by a strange civilization living in cities floating in the clouds. This ship literally, and I'm using that term correctly, does not have a hull. It just has a cockpit with some suspended flaps and a couple of engines suspended next to it. So please, treat her nice, or she will just absolutely break apart. What you get in return for the worst durability in the game is the highest raw top speed and unmatched stability and grip to pair with it. But you will have to be more mindful of walls, as because of that extra grip, it tends to understeer as you're going into corners. You need to slow down more for it to turn around corners. But its acceleration is good enough, and its top speed is really good enough, that you can get out of corners pretty quickly. So just, be more mindful of the steering to avoid exploding yourself to death, and you'll be perfectly fine. I have confidence in you. And last, but certainly not least in my opinion, we have Mantis Core. More well known in history for building fighter craft in previous galactic wars and killing untold thousands of people, yes, that is true, they now apply their designs to killing track times rather than your fellow man. Another well-balanced chassis, this one leans more towards acceleration than anything else, like pure boost and thrust. And while it's not slow, it prioritizes handling over top speed, and while it can take a couple of hits, you really don't want to crash, and its health isn't good enough to give you a lot of extra boost. So just keep that in mind. Another well-balanced chassis, it's the last one that you get, and it's pretty good. It'll do well no matter what you throw at it. But really, anything more than a literal couple of hits will probably spell the end for you. And ooh boy, that's all of the ship teams that you'll be unlocking in Redout 2. And I'm already noticing that this video is kind of getting a little bit longer than I wanted it to, because I'm talking about the ships, which are really exciting. So now we're going to move on to the tracks, and we're going to do a quick description of each of them, and we'll just move on and get to the end of the video, so that way this doesn't drag on. Let's go! The wondrous and beautiful Mount Fuji. Gorgeous scenery, gradual banking turns, and plenty of straightaways for a well-balanced introduction to the world of Redout. Old Cairo, the shortest track by far, with winding paths and tricky sand sections that mess with your grip. Higher temperatures also mean that you'll be boosting less and braking more. Mars, a great combination of claustrophobic turns and massive wide open spaces with really long jumps that require you to vary your driving to be the very best. Like no one ever was. Moving on. The Tartarus Mines on the moon of Io are your first real test of skill. Extremely high temperatures, sections of the track that will cook your ship, and the first real tricky jumps that you'll need to tackle, with lots of rolling and obstacles to avoid. This track will test you, so be prepared. The Marianas Trench. Cold temperatures allow for more boosting in the dense water, and the habitation bubbles on the ocean floor vary the scenery and protect you from the beasts. But that very same water that cools your ship will slow you down and make any ship traveling through it feel more sluggish. Also beware of the thermal vents, they can sneak up on you. The Cloud Ocean. Physics-defying jumps, limited guardrails and safety features combined with low gravity and a thin atmosphere means high speed at even higher difficulty. Another test of your racing skill. Neo Tokyo. Exceptionally crowded with little room for error. This track forces you to change how you drive. More braking and a slower pace is required. Tame this beast. Exercise patience. This track is more than worth the effort. Genesis does what a lunar colony inside of a terraformed bubble, while also having a large section outside of the colonial bubble. Contains the largest single jump in the game, with plenty of other jumps. All of the jumps outside of the dome are zero gravity, making extra steering and controlling to land necessary lest you go flying out of bounds to meet a fiery end. The Origin Black Hole Station. A massive garbage dump that uses a black hole as its disposal method. While the station itself isn't around anymore for various undisclosed and classified reasons, we're left with the ultimate test of vanilla Redout 2. High and low temperature zones, insane gravity strength drawing you towards the black hole at all times, and high-speed dashes cut off by tight turns and tricky jumps. I wouldn't want any other track to be my final challenge in Redout 2. But it's actually not the final challenge, because we have two DLC tracks, starting with the Caribbean Dam. Giant crabs? Yes. High-speed turns? Yeah. And the most difficult jumps in the game. Feels just like home. Featuring a rising double upside-down jump over the dam itself. Yes, that is actually what it is. And multiple sections with no room for error. This is the track that I personally struggle the most with, and I actually have had the least amount of practice on too. And when you're going through the career modes of the DLC, at lower speeds, some of the jumps in this track become almost impossible to finish. So just be prepared for that going in. And finally, we have the Terror Rupees. Taking a trip down to the poles of Mercury, we find ancient runes, strange subterranean structures, and the single best piece of music in this game. I don't think I can play it because of copyright, but look up the Redout 2 soundtrack, and it is by Sledge. It is the only song by that band, so just listen to it, please. This is the true test of endurance and heat management. It's not the most difficult track to navigate, but to truly excel, it needs your full attention. And honestly, besides the, diving deep into the detail of all of the game's tracks and other mechanics and features like the career progression and the multiplayer. That's all we really need to cover in detail. There are other smaller mechanics that I didn't cover, but really the rest of the experience is kind of down to you and how you want to play. Every ship has the same basic control scheme, but will require different tactics to perform at their absolute best. And as the game goes along, you'll get more and more upgrades that'll change how your ships control, how fast they go, how good they steer, how much they grip the track. And all the while, you'll just keep getting faster, and you'll just keep getting better. Turns that were way too easy on your first couple of tries on a track suddenly become nail-biting and need a more careful plan to approach. While, on the other hand, your jumps that were nearly impossible, like the one on the Caribbean Dam, are now a breeze to clear because you're going so much faster. I hate that jump on the Caribbean Dam. I hate that jump so much. Besides my personal vendetta against that one jump, to be honest, there's no section of any track that are blatantly unfair for you as the player. They may catch you off guard once or twice, but every time you hit a wall or don't nail a landing, it's an area that you can improve on your own. The game does not cheat. It may make a mistake every now and then with landings not giving you boosts, but that just might be because you didn't land perfectly. And every mistake that you make is your fault, which results in a game that you're fighting against the game the whole way to get your times better, to get turns slightly more optimal, you're boosting more efficient. When do you use your hyper boost? That's another big thing that I haven't talked about. And finally, when you get to the end and you finish the race, you manage to get that perfect time. You can say out loud and unfiltered, fuck yeah, eat shit game. I beat you. Only for the game to ask you to do it all over again on the next track. And of course you oblige. You're seeking that ever more unobtainable rush of adrenaline and hits of dopamine that come from absolutely destroying a difficult challenge. You are locked in a struggle with the mechanics themselves, not other players who are looking to get that mythical high. Trying to find out how to end this video on a compelling and interesting note that will make it memorable to all of you wonderful people here. Well, frankly, I ain't really got nothing in terms of great ways to end this dive into Redout 2. But I do know one way I can. I'll just say this. Thank you all so much for the support and the subscriptions and the views. How did my first video on Fractured Space get 14,000 views exactly? But I guess I need to get back into the client and get more ship reviews done and give the people what they want, because, yeah, I said I was going to do more, so I kind of need to get on that. So, yeah. And while you might not specifically want more of this doctor in your life, I'm going to try my hand at streaming on a regular schedule. It won't be anything crazy, maybe an hour or two of variety games that I enjoy, games from my youth or games that I just never got the chance to finish. It'll just be nice all the while chatting with all you lovely individuals on this here interwebs. More videos will also be coming as I plan to cut together streams into videos and keep making bespoke videos for everyone here on YouTube. I really want to try to get this to work out well. And especially now that my work schedule gives me 3 days off, I actually get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. I think this is the perfect time to focus on something like this in my free time. And as such, if any of you, and I literally mean any of you, want to see something in particular or have many questions, by all means, let's just talk. This community is small enough. This community is small enough to where I can just sort of like talk to whoever, and it's gonna be great. And like, this video is gonna be a little bit weird to watch. Let me know how the aspect ratio looks. It looks fine on mobile, on phones, because they have a strange aspect ratio, but on PC, laptops, desktops, anything that's at like a 16:9 aspect ratio, it looks like cinematic, like a movie. It looks fine to me. I'm okay with it, but that's because I'm making it, I think, so I have a bias. So if I need to change it back, let me know. I just got a new monitor. That's the only reason why it looks like this. If I need to change it back, I can. For videos, it's fine. Just let me know what your preferences are. We'll get it worked out. But with all that said and done, thank you all for sticking through to the end of this video. And, well, we'll be seeing you around in the next one. And until the next time, have a simply wonderful day. A wonderful day fitting of such a wonderful person. Take care.